Hello, first graders. I'm so excited because today we are going to practice our reading and we're going to learn and we're going to practice what a good reader does. So there are so many things that you have to do in order to be a good reader, and we're going to learn a lot about those this year. We're going to learn what it means to be a good reader and what you need to do in order to be a good reader. So we're going to be reading a story, and after we read that story, we're going to need our packet. So if you don't have your packet and a pencil and some crayons or something to color with, I would like for you to pause this video and go get those things, please. And after you have all those things, where you make sure you have them all in front of you, I want you to put your very good listening ears on and listen to Miss Stromeyer, because I think that you guys are really going to love the book that we're going to read today, but you're going to learn a strategy that makes you a very awesome, good reader today. So first you can kind of see it on my screen, I think. You can see the book, the dot, and we're going to be reading this book. So I have it on Epic, and I'm going to show you it on Epic, but then I also have the book here with me, and you'll see why in just a second that I'm reading this book here too. I want you can look at my screen. I made myself small in the corner so you can't really see me. We are going to practice a strategy today, and that strategy is called to visualize. And when you visualize, you're making a picture in your mind. So you might not have a picture, you might just be listening, or you just might be reading the words. But as you read, you can make a picture in your mind. So I want you to practice that with me really quick. I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to listen to the story that Miss Stromeyer is about to tell you. And I want you to see if you can make a picture in your mind while you do this. So yesterday morning, Charlie and I went out for a walk. And when we went for a walk, it started thundering. And it started getting really windy. And it sounded like it was about to rain. Can you picture that in your mind? Can you picture Miss Stromeyer and Charlie out for a walk, and it starts to thunder? You should be able to hear that in your mind. And it started to get really windy. And all of a sudden, it just started to rain. It started to pour on me and Charlie. And it was raining so hard that there were puddles that were forming on the sidewalk and in the grass. And Charlie thought it would be funny to run and splash in the puddles. And he got mud all over himself. Can you picture that in your mind if your eyes are still closed? You're making a picture. You know what Miss Stromeyer looks like, and you know what Charlie looks like, and you're kind of making a movie or a picture in your mind of what that looked like when Charlie and I got stuck in the rain and he started getting mud all over himself. That's what you're going to practice doing today while Miss Stromeyer reads the first few pages of our story. You're going to visualize, and that's what a good reader does. So when we visualize, readers create a picture or an image in their mind as they read. So that's what this girl's doing. She has a camera, and she's creating a picture in her mind, and that's her picture in the bubble. So I'm going to go back out and show you. This is the front page of the book that we're going to read today. And this is all I'm going to let you see for right now, because remember, Miss Stromeyer has the book right here. And as I start to read this book, I want you to make a picture in your mind of what's happening. So if you need to close your eyes to think about it, you can. But you're thinking about what Miss Stromeyer is reading and what that actually looks like. So if you had to draw a picture, you'd be able to draw a picture based on what Miss Stromeyer reads. So I'm going to start reading, and you're going to start thinking. The dot. Art class was over, but Vashti sat glued to her chair. Her paper was empty. I'm going to read that page one more time, and remember, you're thinking really hard about what this looks like, because I'm not showing you the pictures yet. You're visualizing. Art class was over, but Vashti sat glued to her chair. Her paper was empty. Vashti's teacher leaned over the blank paper. It's a polar bear in a snowstorm, she said. Very funny, said Vashti. I just can't draw. Are you picturing what this conversation looks like? Are you picturing the teacher leaning over her paper and Vashti saying, I just can't draw? Her teacher smiled. Just make a mark on your paper and see where it takes you. So Vashti grabbed a marker and gave the paper a strong jab. Look at Miss Strohmeyer. Vashti grabbed a marker and gave the paper a strong jab. A jab is when you, kind of when you hit it, when you hit something, a jab. So Vashti grabbed a marker and gave her paper a strong jab. There, she said. Okay, I'm not going to read anymore. And I want you, we're going to go back to our paper or back to our presentation. I'm going to show you what you're going to do. You're going to visualize what you just read. So we knew Vashti was in the art room. She was sitting all by herself, and she was a little bit, she didn't really know what to do. I'm going to make Miss Strohmeyer bigger. Oh, sorry, friends, I can't make myself bigger. So Vashti was sitting in art class. She had an empty paper, and her teacher was trying to help her. She said, all you need to do is make a mark. And Vashti, she jabbed her paper. So I want you to find your paper that looks like this in your packet. It's the first page. And you are going to draw a picture that matches what Ms. Strohmeyer just read. So on your paper, it says, readers visualize pictures in their heads, which is what you just did. You made a picture or a movie in your mind as Ms. Strohmeyer read. The book said that Vashti grabbed a marker and gave the paper a good, strong jab. I want you to draw a picture of what you are visualizing, and I want you to write words to go along with your picture. So I want you to describe what's happening. So you're going to draw a picture in the box, and then you're going to write what you drew. So what you're showing that Vashti was doing. So you're going to pause the video, and you're going to do this before listening to Ms. Strohmeyer and finish reading the rest of the book. So pause your video and complete this first page telling me or showing me a picture of what you visualized in your head, and then write words to go along with your picture. Tell me what your picture is about. So if you draw Vashti, tell me what she's doing. Go ahead and pause your video and do this. All right, if you are listening, that means you already finished your first page. That means you have a picture and you have words written, and you're ready to keep listening to the story. So now I'm going to read you the story on Epic, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you what we just read. And we're going to read the rest of the story, and we're going to compare what we were picturing in our mind to what we actually see in the pictures. Art class was over, but Vashti sat glued to her chair. Her paper was empty. Vashti's teacher leaned over the blank paper. A polar bear in a snowstorm, she said. Very funny, said Vashti. I just can't draw. Her teacher smiled. Just make a mark and see where it takes you. So Vashti grabbed a marker and gave the paper a good, strong jab. There, she said. Now I'm going to stop, and I want you to think. I want you to look at your paper, look at what you drew. Did you draw something that looks kind of like what? I want you to compare what you're seeing right now and what you drew on your paper. Do you think that you did a pretty good job showing what you read? Let's keep reading and figure out what happens. The teacher picked up her paper and studied it very carefully. She pushed the paper toward Vashti and quietly said, "Now sign it." So an artist always signs their paintings or their drawings, and now her art teacher wants Vashti to sign it. But it's just a dot. Vashti thought for a moment. Well, maybe I can't draw, but I can sign my name. So that's what she's doing over here. She has her dot, and she's signing her name. The next week, when Vashti walked into art class, she was surprised to see what was hanging above her teacher's desk. It was the little dot she had drawn, her dot, all framed in swirly gold. Her art teacher framed her dot. I can make a dot that's better than that, she said. So she opened her never-before-used set of watercolors and set to work. Vashti painted and painted a red dot, a purple dot, a yellow dot, a blue dot. The blue mixed with yellow, she discovered that she could make a green dot. Vashti kept experimenting, lots of little dots in many colors. If I can make little dots, I can make big dots too. Vashti splashed her colors with a bigger brush on bigger paper to make bigger dots. Vashti even made a dot by not painting a dot. So look, she painted all around the outside of where her dot would have been. So she's getting very creative with her dots that she's drawing. At the school art show a few weeks later, Vashti's many dots made quite a splash. So I want you to take a second. I'm going to leave this page up. I want you to look at all of her different dots that she made. And she's signed all of them. So Vashti made all kinds of dots. Vashti noticed a little boy that was gazing up at her. You're a really great artist. I wish I could draw, he said. I bet you can, said Vashti. Me? No, not me. I can't draw a straight line even with a ruler. But Vashti smiled, and she handed the boy a blank sheet of paper. Show me, she said. The boy's pencil shook as he drew his line. Vashti stared at the boy's squiggle, and then she said, look at the squiggle before we move on. Vashti's looking at the boy's squiggle, and then she said, please sign it, just like her teacher did to her. I want you to think about, so we've finished our story. I'm going to go back to the beginning. I'm going to make Mr. Meyer a little bit bigger so you can see me. So what, did your picture match your words? Or the words of the story? Did your picture match what we read? Because you visualized in your mind, you visualized in the beginning of the story how Vashti was in art class and she did not have anything at all on her paper. And then she jabbed her paper and drew a dot. So you visualize that. And I want you to think for a second before we move on. I want you to think, there we go. I want it to be a little bit bigger. I want you to think, did your pictures match? They probably did. They probably didn't look exactly like what the story looked like, but that's okay. Because those were your own images and your own pictures that you made in your mind. So I want you, before we move on, I want you to think, did my pictures match? I hope they did. And now we're going to be good readers, and we've already visualized. So I'm going to show you. We've already visualized. We've already made a picture in our mind, and we've already showed what we thought was happening as we listened to Mr. Meyer read. So we already did this. And now we're going to think, about the characters in our story, because that's what a good reader does. A good reader thinks about the characters and who were in the story. So I want you to take a second before Ms. Strohmeyer tells you, and I want you to think in your mind, who was one character in the story? Go ahead and think. One character in the story was, and I want you to tell me. You're right. Vashti was a character in the story. And then there was another character. What was the other character? You're right, the art teacher. So there's two characters in the story. We had Vashti, we had the art teacher, and then at the end of the story, we had another character. It was the little boy. You're right. So we had three characters in our story throughout this whole time. And we're going to think about the characters because when we know the characters, it helps us understand and remember what we read. So I want you to find your packet, and we are going to go to the back of the page that we just worked on. And we're going to think about the characters. So I want you to take another look at this page before we go. So our characters, when we know our characters, it helps us understand what we read. And we're going to figure that out right now. You can learn a lot about a character by the way they act and the things that they say. So we're going to figure out what we know about Vashti. So at the beginning, so your first box, I don't know why I'm showing it to you because you can see it on the screen. In your pack, you have this page. And at the top, on the top box, you are going to draw a picture and write about Vashti in the beginning of the story. So what did Vashti say or do in the beginning of the story that you know about her? And then after you finish talking about the beginning of the story, you're going to go down and you're going to talk about the end of the story and how Vashti may have changed at the end of the story. So in the beginning and the end, she was different, and you're going to tell me how. So at the end of the story, what did Vashti do? What do you know about her? What did she do, or what did she say? So you're going to pause the video, and you're going to tell me all about Vashti in the beginning of the story and what she did. Then you're going to tell me all about Vashti at the end of the story and what she did. Pause your video and go ahead and work on that. And if you're listening to Ms. Strohmeyer now, that means that you drew a picture for Vashti in the beginning and Vashti at the end of the story, and you also wrote words. So you told Ms. Strohmeyer what Vashti was like in the beginning and what Vashti was like at the end of the story. And I think it's pretty amazing. So there were a lot of things that you could have shared about the beginning of the story, but I think it's amazing that Vashti in the beginning, she didn't think that she could do it. So when Ms. Strohmeyer did this, I drew a picture of Vashti with a sad face because Vashti could not draw and she didn't think that she could draw. And she was very sad in the beginning of the story. And then when Ms. Strohmeyer did this at the end of the story, Vashti was very happy and she was very encouraging because she took one thing that she knew and she made so many dots and she made so many things, and she even inspired the little boy to draw himself. So that's how she changed from the beginning of the story to the end of the story. And I want you to be sure that you have a picture and words to tell me what she did and said in the beginning of the story and what she did and said at the end of the story. And then we're going to finish reading this book tomorrow. So we're going to have another activity that we get to do with the dot tomorrow that I'm so excited for. But you guys did an awesome job, and I would love it if you could share something on Seesaw with me. So whether or not you want to share your first page of the picture that you drew, or if you want to share how Vashti was in the beginning and the end of the story, but I would love to see it on Seesaw so that you can show me your learning for the day. Awesome job, friends. Way to be a good reader and way to practice how to be a good reader. You did great, and I will see you guys in a little while for math. Bye.